Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay, and welcome to the Battle for Azeroth Alpha and the first pass look at the Enhancement Shaman. And yeah, we're finally doing it! We're finally here! I usually do my spec later on, right? Because I know how to talk about it in a different way. And we did like 4.5 hours of live testing today, only because we had a lot of feedback to go through. And that feedback I will roll on the screen for you. Right? Just bring this up real quick. Let me just start this little. Just kind of. There's even more that I have to fix and curate from other notes that I have to keep going. We're not done yet. Yep. Anything else? Oh, there's still more. Oh, there's still more. Is there a little more? Oh, there's still more. And there we go for Resto Shaman. So, oh boy, that's the feedback and bug fixes and problems that we found with the Enhancement Shaman while testing today. Mostly it comes down to the fact that there are a lot of new talents, and some of them, the way that they're going to scale will either make them great or you'll never want to use them ever because they'll be worthless. And one in particular, which I will sum up towards the end of this video, because I'm not going to go into it because we talked about it for about an hour and a half on stream, and that's why it's a page and a half of feedback about one talent that is awesome, but makes you scratch your head a little bit right now because it's just not going to be great to play with. And apparently in the game design, we can just not talent it, but okay, that's not fun. So if you want to check out the entire VOD, of course, that will be right here on the YouTube channel, uploaded right here. You can always go check it out, of course, over on Twitch itself. Link down below in the video description box for my social media, my Twitch live stream, and then over under somewhere, there's also the subscription button for YouTube if you want to keep up to date with all the first pass, second pass, islands, warfronts, discussion videos on the horizon. I'll talk about GCD soon. Don't you even worry. But all that stuff and more, if you want to subscribe right here or go over to the Twitch channel and keep up to date over there by following at as well. So, Enhancement Shaman. We're on Senpai Word Up, of course. Word Up was here during the testing today, and I've been talking to Purge in Discord for a while. A couple other shamans, Rusa as well, was poking around, and Hikili as well, talking about what is good, what is bad. I think Hames was also in chat today, so a lot of good people trying to figure out the ins and outs of enhancement. And baseline, like case in point on the across the board here, it's the same as it is on live, without Doom Winds, without Alpha Wolf, without the whole Doom Wolves animation and stuff like that, without the AoEing wolves, without the damage funneling from Crash Lightning into the Storm Strike window. That's all gone. But the core of enhancement, still very much there. That's everything we need to know. There's a bunch of baseline updates, which I'll go through here real quick. And then I'm going to go through every single talent, and then I'm going to go put some stuff together, and we'll do some gameplay and different rotations. So, ignore all of the talents you see that are selected there. Wind Fury got a 5% buff on the baseline proc chance. So it's 20% on live, it's 25% on the alpha right now. So a slight upgrade. The mastery scaling on our enhanced elements mastery is the same. It's still the 5.1% base before mastery, whatever, the Stormbringer bonus, then the 2% or whatever you gain from your mastery scaling here. So that Stormbringer is unchanged, mastery is unchanged, except the Stormbringer part that is changed is the reduction on your Storm Strikes on live is 50% Maelstrom. The new change makes your Storm Strikes free. So in doing that and making that free, they've also changed the cost of Storm Strike is now 30 Maelstrom, not 40. And the cost of Lava Lash went up to 40. Lava Lash now feels much more of the actual Maelstrom dump than it is on live. We're also back to 100 Maelstrom overall, not the 150. Storm Strike also has a 9-second base cooldown, removed down from 15 seconds. So quite a big change there. And as you notice on the tooltip, Storm Strike also now does nature damage. One of the many problems with mastery scaling right now across the board for the update to enhancement is that there's no mastery scaling on Storm Strike right now. Well, there should be. It's just not there yet. So again, to recap, 5% more on Wind Fury base chance, the same 2 physical attacks. Stormbringer is the same 5.1 before mastery, and then the mastery adds both the Fire, Frost, and Nature damage amp, and the additional chance for Stormbringer and Wind Fury to proc. A weird change, but welcome, I guess, is that Frostbrand, Flame Tongue, and Rockbiter are all 20 yards now. So it kind of gives you a little bit of that outside melee ability to keep hitting stuff when you're walking and moving. Obviously, Flame Tongue to a lesser extent, mostly Rockbiter. And then, of course, Boulder Fist, Talented, or whatever. So that's an interesting change. It's fine, I suppose. And then another big change is the ratio on Crash Lightning on live right now. The cast and then the follow-up Storm Strikes and Lava Lashes that are empowered by Crash Lightning are the same attack power ratio. Now it's less on the cast, more. We can't see the actual numbers. Again, the tooltip right now is also broken, and the database is also broken. So, but right now, as it's currently balanced, the follow-up Storm Strikes and Lava Lashes do more damage as the AoE, Blade Flurry, Nature Cleave than the actual cast of Crash Lightning. Other core things to bring up here, of course, is that Tremor Totem is back. Tremor Totem does not remove fears, sleeps, or charms while you are CC'd. You have to actually cast it beforehand, but it will remove them all every 0.5 seconds roughly. It dispels them instantaneously, more or less. That's a nice little update. Still, of course, have Wind Shear, 12-second cooldown, ranged interrupt. Maelstrom Weapon passive on auto attacks is still 5. Ankh is still here at 20 and 20. Spirit Walk didn't get changed. Purge mana ratio went up, or our mana went down in the squish. Not a big deal. I have Overcharge Talented right now, so don't worry about that, but Lightning Bolt's base amount is still unchanged. The tooltip here is broken for the Overcharge version. Hex, Healing Surge still has the instant cast version of it. Ghost Wolf unchanged. The Frostbrand cast, and then of course the auto attack still snare the same amount. Feral Spirit still a baseline 2-minute cooldown, lasts for 15 seconds. They grant you 5 Maelstrom each time they attack. It's all still there. Farsight, Earthbind Totem. Another totem that was added to baseline, however, was Capacitor Totem, no longer Lightning Surge. But Cap Totem is now baseline with a 1-minute cooldown. It's a 2-second amp up time to give you a 8-yard, 3-second stun. Bloodlust Heroes remains the same. AS is our only baseline DR. It's a 40% DR for 8 seconds on a 90-second cooldown. Still have Astral Recall, of course. Still have our Res. Still have Cleanse Spirit. Those are all the baseline going overs. So baseline stun and tremor have returned, which is pretty nice. So that being said, all that being caught up on, the baseline rotation is still the same for enhancement, right? You'll build with your Rockbiters and you will keep up Flame Tongue. You'll spam those juicy Storm Strikes, especially when you get the Stormbringers that are free now, and then you will dump with Lava Lash. And there is always going to be a scaling disproportionate amount between, you always want to prioritize Storm Strike, right? Lava Lash will always be less damage. Even though right now on the alpha, it's kind of weird because Lava Lash scales with Mastery and Storm Strike isn't. So they're actually really close in damage, 1700 to 1400. But that will hopefully be changed in the coming builds. But overall, it's still the same. It feels fine. It feels kind of slow right now because I only have 14% haste on this character. There's also a new animation you're seeing there for Lava Lash. I do believe they've broken the Storm Strike animation right now, though. No, there it goes. Okay, it's still fixed. It still works, rather, I should say. Sometimes when you actually cast enough Storm Strikes in a row for it to cycle through the 3 animations, it doesn't actually work properly for some reason. You have to cast them all in a row, which only happens if you get a reset after you've gotten a reset. So on live, we had some confusion about that Flame Tongue and Frostbrand, which I'm not going to hit. Obviously, I don't have Hailstorm talented right now, are coded as spells because they would actually use and proc like caster trinkets. But now they definitely proc. You can get procs of everything, right? You can reset Stormbringer with all of these. So they all work to proc your resets. If you didn't know, if you stand at a 90-degree angle, essentially, from the dummy, you won't auto-attack it anymore. You'll be able to still use specials, though, for some reason. That's how the game is coded. So, but that's the... There was a proc right there from Flame Tongue, right? But Overall, the baseline is still the same. You still have the really juicy AoE, of course, when you activate Crash Lightning. Activating Crash Lightning on 2 targets, then kind of using it as a single target upgrade is definitely still there. But again, the damage on the follow-up hits is more beneficial than the actual Crash Lightning cast. But more on Crash Lightning as we get into the talents. But that's all we have for AoE besides a few talent changes. But that's all still there. That's it. Enhancement is enhancement. That's weird. My attack animation kept going. I have 1 fist weapon on right now and 1 axe to show that, yes, you can differentiate and fist weapons are back. I wanted to use 2 axes, but this axe had lower attack damage due to the fact that it is a caster weapon, and caster weapons do not have agility to int to strength. So you can't do that. You have to actually use a real, like, agility weapon. So just for purposes of testing today, I didn't do, I didn't mix match the caster weapon just to make it look better, even though I personally do not really care for fist weapons at all. So, but yeah, talent-wise now, let's look at a few things here. So I'm gonna go over the utility first. Not mess that up. I messed that up in the elemental video. Static charge reduces the cooldown of Cap Totem by 5 seconds for each enemy hit that stuns, up to a maximum of 20 seconds. So at 4 properly stunned targets, it takes off 20 seconds from the cooldown. Good for helping CC. Earth Shield is here for all 3 Shaman specs. It was heavily nerfed a build ago, however. It has the 10% increased healing done by your spells, which of course helps a little bit. But the actual heal on the hot, essentially, got nerfed by like 40%. It got crushed. So it'll probably still be worth it, and it's a soft DR, which is nice because we don't have very many, damage reductions at all. So it's not even really again, what's that? It's a soft DR. A hard DR, however, in that regard is Spirit Wolf. This comes over from the Restoration Shaman weapon. It's a mobility and damage reduction. It takes 5 seconds to stack when you're in Ghost Wolf form. So the only issue with this, and we talk about this a lot on the VOD today as well on the testing segment, is that it's more punishing than any other form change damage reduction in the game. And we have some suggestions to Blizzard that maybe it should stack 10-10 and take 2 seconds in Ghost Wolf form. Or if it's going to take 4 seconds to gain this, then it shouldn't disappear immediately when you shift out of Ghost Wolf form. Because you can toggle in and out of defensive stance or in and out of bear form, no problem. But Spirit Wolf means you're locked away from every ability besides auto attack, and you can't do anything. It's still a good defensive, and you can shift into it and gain the benefit before you get clobbered by a big AoE hit. But again, at a heavy, heavy DPS loss for both elemental and enhancement, and of course a HPS loss. To a degree, you can have like totems and healing rain down or whatever as resto and still be okay, but it's just a little too punishing. And I don't know why Blizzard has this really big deal with giving defensives to shamans. There's a graph that I can show you that shamans have a terrible, terrible, terrible amount of defensives. Let me actually bring this up on stream right now. So this graph, I have to actually do this live editing because I didn't actually have this prepared. This was made, this little black box right here, this was made during Legion. So some of these are obviously very Legion focused, but these are all the defensive cooldowns that are in the game across the board. And you can sort of see how many Shaman have. Oh. And this doesn't even include all the different self-healing that you can have, right? And we have self-healing as a DPS loss, but that's, yeah, so that's the defensives in the game right now. And the defensive battle that we've been fighting with Blizzard for this whole time only really comes into play because we don't have reliable defensives, and this is not reliable. Earthshield is fine, but only a small heal reliable. We still have Windrush Totem down here. Feral Lunge, I think, does not fit in this talent tier at all. Mostly because it's now paired up against Nature's Guardian, which is essentially Enhancement Shaman Cheat Death, which does this. So it can save you from one-shots, Kind of. Obviously, the one-shot component would have to actually, like, straight out kill you from full health and not be doing massive damage. But this obviously was I was low health, waiting for the cooldown, and then got melee hit by the target dummy, the tanking dummy, to make sure that it put me below and killed me, the overkill up there. And then it healed me, and then the follow-up attack did not actually kill me. So, Nature's Guardian, very good. The problem on this tier is that Feral Lunge is personal movement, but raid movement and party movement will always be better than your own personal movement, outside of, like, maybe PvP. But in PvP, you're going to want Nature's Guardian. So, Feral Lunge can either be made baseline, hopefully, or just, we don't need it. We don't need more mobility. We have mobility. We don't need more options. I said that AG should be here, but Ancestral Guidance, to be good on Elemental, which Elemental still has it, or Enhancement, it needs to be at a higher amount of targets healed, or a higher amount of damage to healing, like half. Because unless we're both AoEing a ridiculous amount or getting really, really, really good RNG procs, it doesn't heal enough. It's very nice, and we miss AG, but it needs to be worked so it's not awful. But Feral Lunge will never work in this case because it's just not good enough in this tier. Nature's Guardian, way too good for progression. Same thing with Windrush Totem, way too good for everything. So we'll see. But that is our utility updates. I will go right off here and say that our 90 AoE talents have not changed at all. So Crashing Storm is still the additional lightning effect when you use your Crash Lightning. I have a whole bunch of feedback about how this should be baselined, and I'm trying to see if we can get the tier 20 Storm Strike into Crash Lightning. Still a Crash Lightning oriented talent where you would Storm Strike and you buff your follow-up Crash Lightning by an amount that stacks a few times. So that should be here as an actual interactive something, and then Fury of Air can move over to be the passive, really easy one, because this looks way better. Right? Crash Lightning, Crashing Storm just looks better together, but Crashing Storm's overall numerical value has always been just terrible. It's just not good enough. And they're never going to make it good enough because it's passive. So make it baseline, make it scale with the actual cooldown of Crash Lightning, and then just kind of make it be a residual dot that just looks cool. Make it flavor. But its damage can be insignificant, doesn't matter. Because Fury of Air's damage is fine. Numerically, Fury of Air scales with everything. It's fine. And then Sundering right now is the hardest hitting ability down here because of current scaling, but it's still just Sundering. It was nerfed to not be a knockback. It's now a 2-second incapacitate when you hit the target, but that is an incapacitate. That breaks on damage. So if you hit a target when you incapacitate them, it breaks instantly. Sundering still has the horrible scaling problems where it only scales with attack power, some crit, because it is only cast twice a minute, maybe. And then versatility. No mastery scaling, no haste scaling, nothing, where these both scale with mastery and haste. So eventually they always will overtake Sundering. So Sundering, if it's going to be this CC-ish option, then it needs to be a different tier to make it a CC-ish option, right? Because right now it's just still this weird, either A, too strong, always use, or B, whatever. It doesn't work because it's trying to do too many things at once, and it doesn't scale in either direction. Oh well. And if this is a cool animation, it needs to finally get fixed. And again, I'm going to report Sundering like I did back in Legion Beta. We'll see if it ever gets fixed or changed. So you see I have Totem Mastery talented right now. I'll talk about it and then we'll move on. It's just all the passive totems. If you like the totem farm, it's numerically okay. But it'll always be just a numerical buff, right? It's just 4 passive buffs. So the problem with this one is, when I go over the rest of the talents in this tier, this doesn't give you anything for AoE, really. And it doesn't give you enough power compared to the other 2 talents. So I would still argue that Totem Mastery just doesn't belong for Enhancement Shaman, but they want to give you back totems because it's been a very big contentious point from feedback from lots of the other parts of the community. They want their totems back. I get it. I hear you. That's fine. But overall, the other talents in this tier are way better. So Landslide, the updated Landslide, is the reverse of our set bonus we have right now in tier 21, where Rockbiter has a chance to double the damage of your Storm Strike. And again, remember, Storm Strike ignores armor now. So by default, that's pretty good for pure single target. It doesn't have a proc or anything that you actually see. It just kind of exists. And the damage is not actually working properly. It's only buffing the main hand hit, not the offhand hit, which results in less overall damage because it should be buffing both, but it doesn't. So this 1942, right, was a crit main hand, but this is a offhand normal. So that's an offhand crit during the buff, which is 1942 right here. So that's just the damage scaling thing. There's a lot of mastery scaling problems and tooltips that are not working at all properly right now. Alpha will alpha, right? But that's the new Landslide. But then these two new talents here. And one of the talents I already have selected, but you're like, new talent? What are you talking about? Lightning Shield and Forceful Winds. So Forceful Winds is just a passive, but it has interactable elements. So Wind Fury causes each successive Wind Fury attack within the next 15 seconds to increase the damage of Wind Fury by 100%, so it doubles. And the Maelstrom it generates by 1 up to 5 stacks. So getting more stacks with getting more Wind Fury procs does not add time or refresh the timer. It'll just proc once and then tick down to 15 and then reset completely. However, obviously at 5 stacks, it's 500% Wind Fury damage, and that means it's 10 Wind Fury additional. So 20, because each Wind Fury attack is 5 Maelstrom. It's 2 at a time, so 10 base. At 5 stacks, it'll be 20 extra Maelstrom whenever a Wind Fury procs. So that interactive part is it reacting to those Wind Fury hits to then hopefully hit a Storm Strike or at least dump before you cap with a Lava Lash. And then Lightning Shield turns you into Thor. Lightning Shield surrounds you for 1 hour. Melee attackers have a chance to suffer nature damage, and it adds a charge to your shield, but when you Storm Strike, you will add 2 charges to your shield. And at 15 charges, the shield will overcharge, causing damage with each attack, and you generate 10 Maelstrom over 10 seconds. Now, right now you'll generate 10 Maelstrom a second for 10 seconds. If this is actually the intentional work that you want to only generate 10 over 10, which is 1 a second, that's awful. It should be probably 5 a second for 10. That would probably feel better, because right now you'll overcap. Because with taking 2 different talents that give you Maelstrom, you easily overcap, right? But these two just feel good together. So tweaking that down a little bit will be helpful. But now, you turn into Thor. That is the new lightning effect on the Lightning Shield. It's the first Lightning Shield we've had, I think, almost in a long, long time that combines enough to be worth it. So the auto attack dealing nature damage is just static shock from back in the day, kind of. The generation, whenever it procs all the way up, feels really good. The only issue with this is that if currently bugged on the alpha, if the final hit comes from AoE, residuals, or whatever, or someone actually hitting you in PvP, you still gain the old wolf. So if I can get that recharge up here, let me do one more. Reset, please. So you still get the old lightning wolf that spawned from the old lightning shield. That's not supposed to happen, obviously, though. That's kind of weird. So smack me. Oh, damn it. I hit Storm Strike instead of hitting Rock Biter. Of course I would. We'll stack that back up over here real quick. So there's no diminishing return. Once it starts proccing, you can immediately just go back up and start proccing it again, which is totally fine. If that 15th stack comes from an attack from not you, it'll still give you the old Lightning Wolf. Let me see if I can get that again here and not mess up. I meant to walk up to the dummy and just hit a Rock Biter, and I fat-fingered. Of course I did. One more, please. One more, please. No? There we go. I gotta take 2 hits from this guy, which is fine. I'm gonna pop AS when I get over there so I don't get so whacky smacked. Do this. There's the 14 stack, and here comes the 15. Maybe. There it is. So that's kind of an interaction that it spawns the Spirit Wolf dog, but it doesn't have any synergies, so it's just a waste. Just a holdover from the old spaghetti code, I guess, from when Lightning Shield did summon the extra wolf. But that was too good because it automatically coded and synergized with the Elemental Spirits new talent, so they took that out, which is not a big deal. So the current Lightning Shield, very, very good. Feels really good in almost all situations. The weird thing about the interactions between these two is the following with AoE. So the way why I want to have both of these talented for AoE here. Crash Lightning is a melee attack. It hits with your main hand weapon. So it, on individual targets, can proc not only Wind Furies, but also reset. It counts as more targets being hit. So it counts as more targets being hit for Stormbringer to reset Storm Strike to give you faster Lightning Shield charges. It all works together. Now, for Forceful Winds, this is a huge bonus to AoE, which both Landslide and Totem Mastery don't help you at all. Which is great. That's a good talent that it has those interactions. Totem Mastery and Landslide need something. Don't just nerf Forceful Winds. That doesn't feel good at all. So this comes into now that you'd want to hard cast on cooldown always now. You're seeing the Wind Fury attacks fire off on the other targets. I can turn to the side here and show you that the Wind Fury attacks do work. Let me do this. Over here, probably better. Yeah, stop auto attack. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I had a few stacks of, I had 2 stacks, I think, before. This is 3 Wind Fury, so I had 1 stack. And that reaction's pretty genuine. I didn't expect to get to 3 procs. That was 2 procs. And there's 2 more stacks of Forceful Winds. So very, very, very good interaction here. Because the more targets you're hitting, the more reset chances you have, the more chances you are to get more Lightning Shield stacks, and the more chances you are at getting more Forceful Wind stacks, which the more chances you have to proc Wind Fury on AoE targets, doing more AoE and cleave damage. And then, again, we're Thor again. It's so damn cool. So, Lightning Shield, Forceful Winds together, very, very good. Forceful Winds, great talent, has interactions in single target and AoE and cleave, wonderful. Landslide could just be buffed to compensate to be a pure single target talent. And Totem Mastery could just go away. Or it needs to be wicked buffed up that the Resonance Totem impacts maybe Crash Lightning. Storm Totem needs to be more damage on Storm Strike, most likely, but will depend on how, when we see Storm Strike damage, when it actually scales with Mastery, because right now it doesn't. Ember Totem probably too weak because you're not hitting a lot of Lava Lashes anymore. You're kind of weaving 1 or 2 here and there. And the Tailwind Totem needs to probably just increase a lot more than just 2% Wind Fury. I don't know. Wind Fury and the damage, because this is all Wind Fury damage, right? So, Hot Hand, not talking about it much because it's the same as it is on live. Boulder Fist, same as it is on live right now. We have put feedback in, or we put feedback together, where I would like to see Boulder Fist be basically an amplified version of Rockbiter. So earlier on, if you remember, Enhancement Shaman had Rockbiter, which had no global cooldown, no cooldown on the global, obviously. No cooldown, he just spammed it. And it generated like no Maelstrom and it felt terrible. And we always took Boulder Fist, the old version, which is the current version of Rockbiter, that charges chunky Maelstrom. So that the suggestion is that Boulder Fist, why do you throw boulders faster than you throw rocks? Boulder Fist should increase dramatically, like double the recharge time on Rockbiter, but also double the Maelstrom, and then, of course, do almost double the damage. So that you can hit, say, 2 Rockbiters or 2 Boulder Fists, and you'll be at 90 Maelstrom or 100, and then you'll weave, like, 1 Boulder Fist here and there. So you'll have this Boulder Fist, Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Boulder Fist, Flame Tongue, Storm Strike, right? It'll slow down the build a little bit more, because right now, taking Boulder Fist is a dead talent outside of the damage increase, because the recharge rate doesn't matter. You're not getting a lot out of the recharge rate, because depending on your gear, once you get geared up, the recharge rate won't help you because you're hitting other abilities. And the recharge doesn't, it just sits there. it's just sitting there, right? I'm obviously doing this in AoE right now, but it shows you the problem that this has, that you're rarely ever hitting Boulder Fist, and it doesn't give you any benefit to have the recharge. It's just not, it's not good enough. It doesn't feel like it gains much from the talent. But if it was a longer cooldown, did more damage, and it generated a lot of Maelstrom on that one button press, it gives you the moment to hit that one to generate and then do other things, versus the version is now. So I'm basically putting forward an idea to give it a super rock biter treatment. Double the cooldown, double the Maelstrom, maybe, you know, 40%, 50% more damage, that kind of a thing. And then it would do that. So Boulder Fist is, we'll see. Hot Hand works just fine. Hot Hand and Lightning Shield are pretty close together versus the current RPPM scaling, and then how often you get Storm Strike hits. The big problem with Lightning Shield scaling right now against the other talents and Forceful Winds is that 5% additional Wind Fury baseline impacts the Stormbringer resets because you have more Wind Furies going off. So each individual Wind Fury has a Stormbringer chance because it's a main hand attack, weapon attack. So those all compound together. Hailstorm right now isn't scaled properly. So does the same thing. Overcharge, same thing as on live. You want to cast that 40 Maelstrom Lightning Bolt to do the huge damage. And that, of course, still works inside that Earth and Spike window. So you want to get that really juicy Earth and Spike. And then, there you go. So big old 3K. You want to, of course, weave in other abilities in the Earth and Spike window. Once you have enough haste, Overcharge will feel just fine because you're able to, like, Earth and Spike, Overcharge, other buttons, Overcharge before Earth and Spike falls off. Earth and Spike was squished down to a 20% physical and nature damage amp. That's mostly just because the item squish in the game. It's just a ratio change. Doesn't really matter. Still does physical damage. So it's obviously going to be nerfed by 35% on bosses, which is just a frustrating thing about, I don't know why PvE armor still exists in the game, but that is Earth and Spike still. Ascendance, I'm not really going to talk about. Like I said before, it's not updated at all. Storm Strike baseline, ignoring armor, makes Ascendance just kind of awful. And the cooldown reduction hasn't been updated to reflect the 9-second cooldown now on Storm Strike, so it doesn't fit. And you basically just spam Wind Strike, but it's not on the right global. You have to wait like 0.3 seconds for it to hit it again. It doesn't fit properly, so they have to tweak that more. But again, nothing more on Ascendance because it's not been updated yet. And outside of that, we have a weird new talent called Searing Assault, which is basically just Flame Shock. So it puts a fire damage over time effect on your hit, your actual cast of Flame Tongue, which is fine. The problem with a talent like this is that it is either way too strong when it's scaled properly, and what that means is that you will always hit Flame Tongue over any other ability, or it will be too weak because how easy its interaction is, and no one will take it because it doesn't do enough damage. And Hailstorm and Overcharge will always be better. So it needs something else, not just this dot, to work. Needs something else. Otherwise, it has an A and a B scalar, right? Same problem they had with Hailstorm, all of Legion, right? When at the beginning of Legion, it was scaled really well. It felt good to hit. It had meaningful impact on your DPS, but then all of a sudden it was too much for Blizzard, so they nerfed it twice. And then all of a sudden, like a tier and a half later, they were like, oh, it's overly nerfed. Now it's terrible. And then they buffed it. So, and you can still use Hailstorm on live right now, actually, once you hit a certain haste amount. You could do it. It's like a DPS neutral with Ancestral Swiftness. But as you see, that Ancestral Swiftness is gone. AS is just that 6% haste multiplier. So obviously, talents that are more interactive are way better than a flat 6% haste, right? So Hailstorm has the same problem right now. Again, it doesn't have the right weapon damage formula because on live, Flame Tongue cast for more, hit for less, and then Hailstorm always cast for less, but hit for more, and that is just wrong. Hailstorm is just weak, period. Searing Assault and Overcharge just outclassed it in every way, but that's just alpha and, versus beta imbalancing. Now, overall builds aside and all of that mumbo jumbo out of the way, I will end this video roughly. We're not done yet. Elemental Spirits. It's a 30-second reduction in Feral Spirits. Causes you to summon one combination of 2 elemental dogs. I was trying to think of the best way to like say that, right? Each time you summon, you have 1 roll of the wolves to gain a fire, frost, or lightning dog. The problem is they can stack, and you can get 2 lightning, 2 fire, 2 frost, etc. The issue there is, currently, the frost version of the dog just gives you basically Hailstorm. It gives you its own version of Hailstorm. The fire version gives you a fire damage amp when it's active, and then Lava Lash also does 20% additional damage as a dot on the target. But that dot isn't scaled properly. It also supposed to last for 15 seconds, like old Flame Shock kind of duration, but it lasts for 6 seconds. Bugged, doesn't work. The big problem here is the Lightning Dog, which I will hopefully get a Lightning Dog again when I recast it. Lightning Dog is 100% additional Wind Fury damage and 100% additional Storm Strike damage. It's a multiplicative benefit. So if you have 2 Lightning Dogs and Forceful Wind stacked, what is happening with the damage here is that Forceful Wind buffs base Wind Fury by 500% with lucky procs. Again, in that AoE situation I was showing you earlier. Then it would get doubled by the 100% from 1 Lightning Dog, and then doubled again, resulting in 2,000% damage amp. And yeah, we got a Icy Edge dog and the Molten Weapon dog. I can show you the Molten Weapon at least. It doesn't work at all. So it's a 6-second dot for some reason, even though it says on here, but it's a 15-second, 20% additional damage direct dot. So it just doesn't work. The issue here is that it's Roll the Wolves. And it doesn't feel good to get anything other than double Lightning Dog. Because mostly the multiplicative RNG benefits of stacking tons of Wind Fury and Storm Strike damage into very small windows of time versus the Frost and Fire Dogs are just way too weak and they're just not good. So there's a whole page and a half of notes I'm submitting about the different ways they could fix this or change it or make it not so egregiously toxic and terrible. It's probably the worst talent in the game right now that we've tested. Now, Roll the Bones still exists, but Roll the Bones has like roll protection now. You'll always roll like 2 and it's kind of DPS neutral and blah, 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 whatever. And Elemental Spirits just doesn't have any of that. It's always going to be random. It's always going to be either really good or awful, unless they buff the other 2 dogs. But then at that point, you still have the RNG problem with how Crash Lightning works and how Forceful Winds works. And to fix that, one of the major suggestions we have is that it should just summon 1 of each dog. 1 fire, 1 lightning, and 1 frost. You get the passive auto attack damage, you get the passive fire damage, you get when you hit Lava Lashes a couple times during that, you get the dot. And when you're weaving your Storm Strikes properly based on procs, you get the double damage there, and you get the extra Wind Fury damage. 1 of each means that it's predictable, baselined, and, in fact, it also makes it predictable in the fact that you can actually build around this. Because if you actually have Azerite traits that buff Lava Lash, maybe you want to actually spec Hot Hand. So you always know that when you pop Elemental Spirits, you'll get 1 Fire Dog. You want to prioritize your Hot Hand procs because your Lava Lash is doing beast damage. Fine. Good. Or you can prioritize Landslide and Boulder Fist or whatever, or Landslide and Lightning Shield, right? So that you can always make use of the additional damage from the Storm Strike bonus, right? You get Landslide procs, you get the extra damage on the Storm Strikes, you get the baseline Elemental Spirit damage from the Storm Strikes there. You can build a talent around it based on the actual damage you're doing. Right now you can't. It's way too RNG and really, really bad. Yeah, there's Lightning Dog right there. The Crackling Surge. So hopefully they take the feedback and they take that to heart and hopefully fix Roll the Wolves. Ascendance needs some love. Earth and Spike feels fine. So fix this before it goes live. Otherwise, you're going to have certain enhancement shamans just skyrocketing past people because of wicked crazy RNG versus other times you're going to be casting it, and most of the time you're going to get crappy dog combinations, and it's going to feel really bad. And then you're going to fix Ascendance because of the Stormstrike scaling change that has happened on live. But that is the Enhancement Shaman as it currently stands. A couple of sticking points again. Ascendance, Elemental Spirits, Crashing Storm, Searing Assault, everything else looks okay. Landslide needs to get fixed. A lot of mastery scaling problems across the board. But that's, of course, what Alpha's for. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Enhancement Shaman. Let me know how awesome it is to turn into Thor, basically. Again, subscribe if you're new to the channel or want to keep up to date with all of the first pass, second pass testing, and anything else I'm doing in the alpha and the beta. And of course, live shows in the future, kill videos, all that good stuff. Check the video description box as well for links to my social medias and the Twitch live stream where all of this happens, and the link to the VOD of all the testing when we talk about all the stuff and figure it all out. But overall, I like it. I've been Enhancement Shaman for 10 plus years now. If they can fix the sticking points, we have a lot of neat ideas here for different situations. We have 2 additional soft DRs, which is welcomed. Hopefully they work. Spirit Wolf needs some work, but regardless of that, thank you all very much for watching. This has been the Enhancement Shaman First Pass. Again, my name is Bay, and I will see you all in the next First Pass testing video in the Battle for Azeroth Alpha. Death Knights are up next.